If your goal is to never work again, you've already lost. Not because you're lazy, not because you're not smart enough, but because the game you're playing was rigged the moment you started playing it. You see, most people don't chase money for freedom. They chase money to escape responsibility, to escape stress, to escape work. They say things like, if I just had enough money, I wouldn't have to work. If I win the lottery, I'll quit tomorrow. If I build passive income, I'll never work another day in my life. It sounds logical, but that belief is quietly destroying you. It turns work into a prison, it turns money into a rescue boat, and it turns you into a person who's constantly running, never building. This is the hidden mindset trap that keeps poor and middle-class people stuck for life. The rich think completely differently. Here's something you won't hear in most financial advice. The rich don't hate work. They don't avoid it. They leverage it. They don't see work as something to escape. They see it as something to multiply. They work to build things that will eventually work without them. They trade their time not for paychecks, but for systems, equity, cash flow, impact. They're not obsessed with leaving the game, they're obsessed with changing the game. Because here's the truth. Poor people want to work less. Rich people want their work to mean more. One is trying to disappear, the other is trying to scale. Work is not the enemy, it's the tool. You've been told your whole life to work hard until you can stop, that freedom means not having to work, that wealth is the ability to do nothing. But here's what you've never been told. Escaping work doesn't create freedom. Designing your work does. Work is not your prison, working without a purpose is. That's the difference. If you hate work, you'll never master money. People with a poor mindset believe work is suffering. They think effort is punishment. They dream of a life without pressure, without deadlines, without any more Mondays. But the harsh truth is, if you hate work, you'll never build anything. You'll never learn leverage. You'll never outgrow survival. Because even passive income starts with active intention. Even financial freedom requires mental discipline. Even early retirement means early mastery of building value. The rich don't think, how can I get out of work? They think, how can I make work create value without me needing to repeat it forever? That is the difference. That is the unlock. Why this video exists. This video is not here to shame your desire to rest. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. But you will never find those things by running from responsibility. You will never find them by avoiding effort. You will never find them by dreaming of some future where you do nothing. You will only find them when you start building. Building skills, building systems, building leverage, building value, and above all, building your mindset. What you'll learn next. In the parts ahead, we're going to destroy the myths about money, work, and success that have silently trapped millions in permanent mediocrity. You'll learn why retire early is a dangerous goal, why working less should never be the dream, how rich people use work differently than everyone else, how to stop trading time for money and start building machines that make money, and how to rewire your mind so that you control work instead of letting it control you. This isn't about working more, it's about working right. This isn't about escaping, it's about evolving. Because freedom isn't the absence of work. Freedom is when the work you do builds a life that keeps giving back, even when you pause, rest, or step away. So, before we dive deeper, ask yourself one question. Do I want to stop working, or do I want to start winning? The answer will define the rest of your life.
The root of a poor mindset. Working just to stop working. Let's get brutally honest. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a relationship problem with work. They weren't taught how to create wealth. They were taught how to survive long enough to retire. And that's where the problem begins. From childhood, we're told to go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, and then spend the next 40 years grinding just to earn the right to finally stop. not to do meaningful work, not to build something that matters, not to create value, but to escape. That's what most people are working for, a chance to not work anymore. The fantasy we're all sold. Think about it. Why do people want to win the lottery? Why do they dream of inheritance? Why do they chase get-rich-quick schemes? Because deep down they believe this lie. If I had enough money, I'd never have to work again. They're not trying to get rich to expand their impact. They're trying to get rich to disappear. It's not about contribution. It's about escape. They see money not as a tool for creation, but as a way out. Out of effort. Out of pressure. Out of responsibility. Out of showing up. And that mindset is exactly why they stay broke. The survival to escape loop. Here's the loop most people live in. Go to work. Earn just enough to pay bills. Resent work. Dream of not working. Try to find shortcuts. Waste time on things that promise freedom. Stay stuck in the same job. Repeat for decades. They're not building anything. They're enduring everything, hoping one day it'll stop. But nothing stops unless you make it stop. Nothing changes unless you build the thing that creates change. Escaping work is not a plan. It's a fantasy. And fantasies don't make you rich. They keep you small. Why this mindset is so dangerous? Here's the deeper problem. If you see work as the enemy, you'll resist every opportunity to grow. You'll avoid challenges that sharpen you. You'll skip projects that could build your name. You'll ignore opportunities that require temporary sacrifice.
You'll sabotage yourself because deep down, you just want the pressure to go away. And over time, you'll condition yourself to believe pressure is bad, risk is dangerous, responsibility is a trap, growth is too hard, freedom is only for the lucky. This is how the middle class becomes permanent. Not by lack of talent, but by lack of perspective. When work becomes a means to stop living, if your entire life is designed around doing just enough until I can stop, then what exactly are you living for? The weekend? The holidays? A 30-year mortgage you can barely pay off? A retirement that might come at 65 if inflation doesn't eat it alive? This is not life. This is slow motion surrender. You're not climbing, you're not building, you're not growing. You're just waiting for it all to be over. That's not freedom, that's mental decay. How the rich avoid this trap entirely. Now, compare that to how the rich think. They don't say, I'll work for 40 years and then quit. They say, what can I build that keeps paying me long after I stop? They don't say, how can I earn more money so I can stop working? They say, how can I design work that builds assets and income streams? They don't run from work, they engineer it. They don't fantasize about quitting. They optimize for impact. And here's the craziest part. Many of the richest people on Earth still work every day. Not because they have to, because they want to. Because they're not working to escape, they're working to expand. What you can do right now. If you've been living in the work just to stop trap, here's how to break out. Redefine work. It's not suffering. It's a tool. It's leverage. It's learning. Look beyond the paycheck. Ask, what am I building? Who am I becoming? Stop chasing passive income without active value. Nothing is passive at first. Shift from consumption to creation. Don't just work to buy, work to build. Embrace responsibility. You're not tired of work, you're tired of meaningless work. Freedom doesn't come when you stop working. It comes when your work works for you. And that starts with a mindset shift from escape to creation. In the next chapter, now that you understand where the poor mindset begins, we're going to explore how the rich reframe work completely, and how that single shift unlocks freedom, purpose, and wealth in ways most people will never experience. Because escaping effort isn't the goal. Building leverage is. Rich people don't fear work, they fear being idle. Here's a truth most people won't believe until it's too late. The rich are not afraid of work. They're afraid of stagnation. They're afraid of irrelevance. They're afraid of wasting potential. They don't fear 60-hour weeks. They fear spending years doing nothing meaningful. While most people dream of rest, the wealthy dream of momentum. Because they understand something the average person never considers. Work isn't the problem. Meaningless work is. The hidden anxiety of the wealthy. There's a myth that the rich are calm, carefree, and completely detached from effort. But the reality? The rich have a different kind of anxiety. It's not about bills. It's not about bosses. It's about impact. They're driven by questions like, am I building something that lasts? Am I using my time to multiply value? Am I creating something that doesn't need me eventually? To the rich, being idle isn't peaceful. It's dangerous. It means they're losing edge, missing opportunities, or falling behind innovators who move faster. This is why many billionaires keep working long after they could retire. Because to them, not building feels like dying. Work as a weapon, not a burden. When poor and middle-class mindsets see work, they see sacrifice. But when the rich look at work, they see weapons. Work is a weapon for learning. Work is a weapon for networking. Work is a weapon for leverage. Work is a weapon for cash flow, positioning, and control. They don't wake up and ask, how do I stop this? They ask, how do I make this scale? They don't wish to avoid effort, they wish to focus it. Because they know this, the right kind of work, when aimed at the right target, is unbeatable. Idle time is a trap. Most people think, if I had more free time, I'd be happier. But studies show otherwise. When people stop working completely, when they retire with nothing to build, nothing to grow, nothing to aim for, they deteriorate. Their mental health declines, their sense of purpose collapses, their physical health deteriorates. Why? Because human beings are builders by nature. We are designed to progress, to challenge, to stretch. When there's no mission, there's no meaning, and no amount of money can replace that. The dangerous allure of doing nothing. What most people call freedom, doing nothing, sleeping in, no deadlines, quickly becomes emptiness. It feels amazing for a few weeks, then it turns into boredom, then apathy, then regret. That's why so many early retirees quietly go back to work, or start a side business or volunteer, anything that gives them structure again. Because deep down, they realize, I don't want to do nothing. I want to do something that matters, on my terms. That's the real dream, and rich people know it from the start.
How the wealthy design their days. If you followed a wealthy person for a week, here's what you'd notice. They don't waste mornings. They guard their focus. They schedule creative work. They review data. They attend meetings that grow their assets. They delegate things that drain energy. They spend hours on ideas that others might dismiss. They're not busy to stay busy. They're busy to build. To build systems. To build income streams. To build freedom through work, not apart from it. Their days aren't packed to avoid boredom. They're structured to expand impact. That's the key. What this means for you. If you want to think like the wealthy, stop asking how to stop working. Start asking, what kind of work energizes me? What kind of work builds long-term leverage? What am I doing today that my future self will thank me for? Is my work producing value or just effort? Don't chase idleness. Chase intelligent effort. Don't aim for empty calendars. Aim for calendars filled with things that move your life forward. Because you will not find freedom in stillness, only in strategy. The rich don't use work to fill time. They use it to build engines. Engines that pay them, scale without them, and create impact beyond them. And that's what you must learn next. In the next section, we're going deeper into how the rich multiply value through work, while the poor and middle class simply try to get through the week. Because the point is not to avoid effort. It's to make every effort echo.
Working to live versus working to multiply, the two paths of work. There are only two reasons people work: to live, to multiply. And the path you choose determines everything: your income, your freedom, your fulfillment, and your future. Path 1, working to live. This is the default path. It's what schools train us for. It's what society rewards. It's what most people do forever. You work because you need money. You need money to survive. So you work just enough to keep life going. Your work fuels your expenses. Your expenses keep you chained to your job. You work harder, but the treadmill never slows down. This is the survival loop. You exchange hours for dollars. You get a raise and upgrade your car. You earn more and buy a bigger house, but your time, your freedom, still gone. The result? You're exhausted. You're trapped. You're dependent on a paycheck. And if you ever stop working, everything collapses. That's not wealth, that's barely breathing. Path 2, working to multiply. Now let's look at the other path. This is the path of the wealthy, of the strategic, of the free. These people don't just work to survive, they work to multiply. They use their work to build systems, train teams, acquire assets, scale income, expand ownership, and create leverage. Their effort compounds. Their decisions have residual effects. Their time isn't just spent, it's invested. They're not chasing money, they're building machines that produce money. And the longer they stay in the game, the faster the game starts working for them. The core difference: outcome versus output. Working to live equals output-based thinking. How many hours did I work? How much did I get paid? Working to multiply equals outcome-based thinking. What did this work create? What will it keep creating long after I stop? You see, the poor and middle class focus on effort. The rich focus on effect. That's the mental shift. Don't ask, how hard am I working? Ask, is what I'm doing today going to multiply tomorrow? If the answer is no, you're in the wrong work, or you're working in the wrong way. Why this matters more than ever? In today's economy, survival work is becoming automated. AI can answer phones. Apps can do accounting. Robots can deliver food. Code can write reports. If your only value is based on showing up and doing the task, your job is already at risk. But if you learn to build, scale, strategize, and multiply, you become irreplaceable.
Not because you work harder, but because you build engines others can't. That's how you win in the new world. Multiplying doesn't mean you need a business. Let's clear something up. You don't need to be an entrepreneur to work like the rich. You don't need a team. You don't need funding. You don't need to quit your job. What you need is a builder's mindset. You can be an employee who builds a personal brand, creates internal systems, mentors new hires, automates tasks, documents value, and creates long-term visibility. You can be an artist who turns one design into a licensing empire, turns a song into recurring royalties, turns a blog into a course, then a community. The point is, you stop working just to live and start working to multiply what you've already done. How to start shifting paths today. Let's say you've been stuck in survival mode. How do you switch? Start by asking, what am I doing right now that only pays me once? How can I do work that pays me more than once? What knowledge am I gaining? And am I documenting or leveraging it? Am I trading time for money or building systems that trade without me? What can I automate, delegate, or scale? And most importantly, am I acting like a laborer or a multiplier? This one question will reshape your entire career. The tipping point. When you start working to multiply, something amazing happens. You realize that the first effort is the hardest, but every effort after that gets easier, faster, and more profitable. You stop chasing hours and start chasing assets. You stop dreading Monday and start designing your week like a strategist. You stop waiting for retirement and start building freedom on your own terms. Because you're no longer just working to live. You're working to create something that lives beyond you. And that, my friend, is wealth. Up next. Now that you understand the two paths of work, we're going to explore how the rich build systems and how you can do it, even if you're starting with zero. Because multiplying wealth requires more than hustle. It requires structure.
The truth about easy money and why the rich still work hard. Let's talk about a dangerous myth, a fantasy that sells millions of courses, a lie that keeps people poor, and a mindset that destroys momentum before it even begins. It's the dream of easy money, passive income, no effort, no risk, no sweat, just money flowing while you sleep, while you travel, while you do nothing. Sounds beautiful, right? It's also the reason most people never get rich. The lie of effortless wealth. Instagram gurus, TikTok finance bros, and YouTube thumbnails shout the same things. Make $10,000 a month with no skills. Earn while you sleep. Quit your job in 30 days. They promise a life of wealth with zero work. And it's seductive because we all want freedom. We all want ease. But here's the truth. Every dollar that looks easy was once hard.
Behind every passive income stream is an active phase filled with risk, sacrifice, learning, failure, stress, late nights, relentless execution. You may only see the finished product, the smiling YouTuber, the Airbnb host, the course creator. But what you don't see is the thousands of hours it took to build the system. There is no such thing as truly easy money. There is only leveraged money. And leverage takes work. The rich know this. Ask any successful entrepreneur, investor, or creator. How hard was the beginning? How long did you build before it paid off? What did it really take? Their answers will shock you, because the rich don't expect money to be easy. They expect it to be earned, engineered, and eventually multiplied. They work harder up front so they can work smarter later on. That's the difference. Poor and middle-class mindsets ask, how can I skip the hard part? Rich mindsets ask, how can I make the hard part build forever? Passive income is not passive at first. Let's look at common passive income sources and what they actually require. Writing a book? You spend months or years writing, editing, formatting, marketing, all before the first sale. Rental property? You spend money on the down payment, vet tenants, manage repairs, deal with vacancies, then hope for cash flow. Dropshipping store? You test products, run ads, handle refunds, deal with competition, and that's before you make a dime. YouTube channel? You script, film, edit, upload, optimize, engage with comments for months before earning anything. You get the point. It's not passive until you've paid the price in sweat. And most people quit before they get there. Why easy money is so dangerous. The dream of easy money makes you entitled, kills your work ethic, sets false expectations, trains you to quit when things get hard, makes you chase dopamine instead of discipline. It creates mental laziness, the idea that if money isn't fast, it isn't worth it. But the truth? Fast money fades. Built money lasts. If it was that easy, everyone would be rich. But most aren't because they keep looking for shortcuts that don't exist. What the rich actually chase. Here's what wealthy people focus on. Scalable work. One action that reaches thousands. Repeatable systems. Processes that work without them. Residual income. Earnings from value already built. Asymmetry bets. Small risks with big potential rewards. Time compounding. Building something today that pays them every year after. They don't chase easy. They chase meaningful effort with exponential return. That's the formula. The irony most people miss. The people obsessed with easy money end up working the hardest for the least return. Why? They hop from one idea to another. They start over every few months. They burn out because nothing compounds. They blame the system instead of building one. Meanwhile, the rich commit to hard things and then automate them, scale them, or sell them. So what looks easy to you is just what they made easy through discipline. So what should you do? If you've been chasing shortcuts, here's how to pivot. Pick one hard thing worth doing. Commit to the long game. Track your inputs, not just results. Study people who built, not people who flaunt. Build once, refine forever. Ask yourself, am I trying to avoid effort or optimize it? Because the truth is, you don't need easy money. You need smart leverage built through real effort. The real definition of wealth. Wealth isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing what matters in a way that keeps giving back. The rich still work,
but they work on vision, strategy, direction, ownership, and multiplication. And that's the kind of work that never gets old, because it's not about escaping effort. It's about making every ounce of effort count. So what's next? Now that you understand why easy money is a myth and how the rich build real momentum, it's time to dive into how they use work to create systems, not just paychecks. Because rich people don't trade time for money. They trade work for systems.
The system builders, how the rich turn effort into engines. There's a moment, a quiet shift, when someone stops thinking like an employee and starts thinking like a builder. That moment is the turning point in wealth creation. Because until then, all your work is linear. 1 hour equals X dollars, one project equals X dollars, one job equals one income stream. But the rich, they don't live in that equation. They break the equation. They don't ask, how much can I make today? They ask, what can I build today that prints money tomorrow, next month, and 5 years from now? And the answer is always the same: systems. What is a system? Let's simplify. A system is anything that produces consistent results without needing your constant input. It's a repeatable process. It's an engine. It's a machine that turns effort into output, even when you're not present. In wealth terms, it looks like a product that sells itself, a team that runs without micromanagement, a funnel that generates leads 24/7, a rental property with automated operations, a YouTube video that earns for years, a book that sells while you sleep, a business model that scales beyond you. The rich don't want to work forever. They want to work once and let that work echo. That's the mindset shift. Why systems are the real source of freedom. Most people think money creates freedom, but money is just a snapshot. It shows you what you earned, not whether it will keep coming. Systems, on the other hand, are motion pictures. They keep delivering value. They keep running. They keep growing even as your time steps back. The difference? Money without systems equals stress, pressure, fragility. Systems without money equals potential, leverage, future wealth. Money with systems equals freedom, stability, scalability. If your life depends on you showing up, you're not free. You're renting your lifestyle by the hour. The rich know this, so they don't just earn, they build engines that earn for them. From worker to architect. Here's the transition that changes everything. Poor and middle class mindset. I need a better job. Rich mindset. I need a better system. Workers say, let me do more. Builders say, let me build once and let that work do more for me.
This is the difference between delivering food versus building the app, teaching hourly lessons versus creating a course, freelancing projects versus building a portfolio that sells itself, and working in a company versus owning equity in one. One trades time, the other multiplies it. But I don't know how to build systems, you might be thinking. But I'm not a business owner. I'm just an employee. I don't have capital, a team, or experience. Good, because this means you still have the greatest asset of all, a blank canvas. Building systems doesn't require permission, it requires clarity and commitment. Start small. Write down your most repetitive tasks. Can you automate or template them? What parts of your work others could do better than you? Can you delegate or outsource? What things do you do that bring value? Can you package them into content, product, or process? You don't need to be big, you need to be systematic. Systems in action. Real-world examples. Let's make this real. Author. Writes a book once, gets paid for years via royalties. YouTuber. Creates a single viral video, earns ad revenue and subscribers for months, maybe even forever.
Investor buys a rental property, sets up automated management, receives monthly rent. Entrepreneur builds an e-commerce store, integrates payment, fulfillment, ads, makes sales while sleeping. Consultant turns process into online course, stops trading time, starts scaling revenue. In every case, the key is this: create something once, make it deliver value over and over again. How to think like a system builder. Every system starts with one question: how can this work without me? This question forces you to document what you do, design workflows, identify the value chain, automate what's predictable, delegate what's repetitive, focus only on what multiplies impact. When you stop asking how to work harder and start asking how to make things work for you, you become powerful. Because now, you're not just solving problems, you're solving them permanently. The payoff. The first system you build will feel hard. It will feel slower than doing it yourself. It will feel like a waste of time. But later, you'll realize it was the most valuable work you've ever done. Because while everyone else is trapped in loops, you'll be running engines. You'll be able to step away without income stopping, sell what you built from multiples, grow without burnout, scale without breaking. That's not fantasy. That's what systems make possible. In the next chapter, you're now ready to understand the next level of wealth thinking. The difference between being busy and building leverage. Because you don't get rich by doing more.
The wealthy don't stay busy, they build leverage. Let's start with a painful truth. Being busy doesn't mean you're building wealth. In fact, busyness is often a disguise for stagnation. It feels productive, it looks impressive, but in reality, it's just motion without direction. And the people who fall into this trap the most, not the lazy, not the unmotivated, but the overachievers, the hard workers, the always grinding types, the people who think hustle is the same as progress. But the wealthy, they play a completely different game. They don't obsess over activity, they obsess over leverage. What is leverage? Leverage is the ability to do more with less. It's how you turn one decision into 1,000 results, one action into 10,000 impressions, 1 hour into years of return, one idea into scalable income. In short, leverage is multiplication power, and the rich build their entire lives around it. Busyness versus leverage, the core distinction. Let's break it down. Busy people, they say yes to everything. They chase urgency. They fill calendars. They measure effort. They feel guilty for resting. They get stuck in survival loops. Leverage builders, they say no to almost everything. They chase opportunity. They guard their calendar like a fortress. They measure results. They rest strategically. They break the loop by building engines. Busy people ask, how much can I get done today? Leveraged people ask, what can I set up today that keeps paying off forever? That's a radically different mindset. The 4 types of leverage the rich use. Wealthy people use multiple forms of leverage, sometimes all at once. Let's explore them. 1. Labor leverage. Other people's time. You build a team. You delegate. You lead instead of doing it all yourself.
A CEO doesn't answer customer service emails. Their systems and staff handle that. 2. Capital leverage. Other people's money. You use money as a tool to grow faster. Example, investors fund your business. You use financing to buy assets that generate income. 3. Code leverage. Software and automation.
You build or use tools that work 24/7. Example: sales funnels, autoresponders, e-commerce systems, all earning while you sleep. 4. Content leverage, ideas that scale. You publish something once, it works forever. Example: a viral video, a best-selling book, a newsletter that drives sales every week. The poor and middle class rely only on their own two hands. The rich build structures that work even when they don't. Why you can't afford to stay busy. Here's what nobody tells you. If you're too busy to build leverage, you'll always be too busy to escape. Busyness is a treadmill. You move, you sweat, but you never leave the same spot. And even worse, it steals your best asset: focus. Focus is what creates breakthroughs. Focus is what designs systems. Focus is what builds wealth. If your day is filled with urgent tasks and scattered energy, you're not building anything. You're just surviving everything. How to escape the busyness trap. Here's how to break out. Audit your calendar. What are you doing that creates leverage? What's just noise? Rank your tasks by ROI. Stop doing what's urgent. Start doing what's impactful. Protect your mornings. Use your best energy for building, not reacting. Batch and block. Handle low-leverage tasks in tight blocks. Never let them leak into your creative time. Learn to say no, ruthlessly. Every yes to distraction is a no to wealth. You don't need more time. You need multiplying decisions. A life without leverage is just a job with better branding. You can be a freelancer, you can be a solopreneur, you can be your own boss. But if you're still trading time for money, if your income stops when you stop, you're not free. You're self-employed on a fancier treadmill. Leverage is what separates the wealthy from the tired. It's not about titles, it's not about hustle. It's about scalability. In the next chapter, now that you understand what leverage really means, it's time to study how the rich replace themselves inside the systems they build. Because wealthy people don't just create systems, they exit them. They become owners, not operators. From time to ownership, how the rich remove themselves without losing control. The ultimate power move in wealth creation is not making more money. It's making yourself non-essential without becoming irrelevant. Let that sink in. Most people spend their lives trying to become indispensable at work, in their business, in their role. But the wealthy, they spend their lives designing systems that don't need them at all. And yet, they still own it. This is how rich people exit the machine but still collect the profits. It's the shift from time-based income to ownership-based wealth. It's the only game worth playing. What is ownership-based wealth? Ownership is when you benefit from something, even if you're no longer the one doing the work. It's equity in a business, licensing for your creations, intellectual property that pays royalties, shares that pay dividends, real estate that pays rent, a brand that sells itself. Ownership means you're not the engine, you own the engine. And when that happens, your time becomes optional. Not because you don't care, but because you built it that way. The problem with being too valuable. Here's a harsh truth. If your company can't function without you, you don't own a business, you are the business. If your income stops the moment you take a break, you don't have a system, you have a shiny job with a fancy title. Many middle-class entrepreneurs fall into this trap. They hustle harder. They take on every client. They work weekends. They answer every email. Why? Because they've built a structure that depends on them. And the more it grows, the more trapped they become. This is not freedom. It's glorified self-employment. The rich design for exit from the start. Here's what separates wealthy builders from overwhelmed grinders. From the very beginning, the rich ask, how do I eventually remove myself without losing quality revenue, or control. They document everything, build repeatable systems, hire or partner strategically, train leaders, not task doers, design with scalability in mind, automate predictable functions, focus only on the leverage layer. Their goal isn't just to earn, it's to earn without being needed. The 3 levels of business evolution. Let's visualize this. Downward triangle, you do the work. Time equals money. You're trading hours for income. No work, no money.
Level 2, you build systems and hire others. Time still involved, but less. You manage, delegate, optimize. You can step away temporarily. Level 3, you become the owner, not operator. Income flows without your input. You own equity, not just effort. Your job becomes vision, not execution. This is how wealth becomes scalable and sustainable. You don't just build systems, you build ownership stakes in those systems. Ownership brings control without chains. Let's be clear, stepping away doesn't mean disappearing. The best owners still set strategy, define culture, review key metrics, guide innovation, and make high-level decisions. But they do it on their terms. They're not trapped by logistics. They're not buried in operations. They have choice, the highest form of wealth. Real-world examples. Let's ground this in reality. Jeff Bezos isn't packing Amazon boxes. He's setting direction, then stepping back. Tim Ferriss automated his business and wrote the 4-Hour Workweek. Taylor Swift owns her master recordings and earns from streams whether she's touring or not. Real estate investors collect rent on properties they never step foot in. Course creators make money daily from content filmed once, years ago. They all share one trait. They own the machine. They don't run it. But what if you're just starting? You might say, that's great for billionaires, but I'm still grinding. Perfect. That means now is the best time to design your escape. Start by shifting your question from, how can I do more, to, how can I build something that works without me? Every day, build systems that outlast you, assets that appreciate, content that compounds, relationships that scale, brands that live beyond your face. This isn't about quitting. It's about evolving from doer to designer to owner. The final shift, from hustle to holdings. You don't get rich by hustling harder. You get rich by holding smarter. Owning equity, owning your brand, owning your ideas, owning your time, owning your future. The rich don't sell hours. They sell value and keep the upside. And the more you move toward ownership, the less dependent you become on energy, time, or even location. That's what wealth really is. Up next, now that you understand how the rich remove themselves without losing control, it's time to tackle one of the biggest lies in the modern world: the dream of early retirement. What if the freedom you're working so hard for was never meant to be real?
The retirement lie is why the rich don't aim to quit, they aim to own. You've been told a story since you were young. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save consistently, retire at 65, finally live. It's the dream, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Retirement isn't freedom. It's often just deferred escape from a life you didn't want in the first place. And for most people, that dream was never real to begin with. The invention of retirement. Let's go back. Retirement is not some ancient noble idea. It was invented in 1889 by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, who proposed that people over 70 should stop working because they weren't physically capable anymore. It wasn't about fulfillment. It wasn't about freedom. It was about managing labor and making room for younger workers. Then, in the US, the retirement age was set at 65, when the average life expectancy was around 62. Do you see the trap?
Retirement wasn't designed to reward you. It was designed to replace you. And yet generations later, we still chase it like it's salvation. The math doesn't work anymore. Even if you believe in the retirement dream, here's the problem. It's becoming mathematically impossible. Pensions are disappearing. Social Security is unstable. Inflation is eroding savings. Medical costs are rising. And most people don't save nearly enough. And worst of all, you spend your young, healthy, energetic years grinding so you can maybe enjoy life when your body is tired and your time is limited. That's not wealth. That's postponed survival. The rich don't retire. They redesign. Here's what wealthy people do differently. They don't work for 40 years to quit. They work for 5 to 15 years to own.
Own systems, own assets, own businesses, own brands, own time. They don't wait to live, they integrate freedom into their now. To the rich, retirement isn't a finish line, it's a failure of design. If you're working just to get out, you were never in the right game to begin with. The new definition of retirement. Let's redefine it. Old retirement, work until you're 65, then try to enjoy what's left. New retirement, build systems that earn so you can live fully at any age. Under this new model, you take intentional sabbaticals. You design income that flows without burnout. You build leverage into your lifestyle. You stop trading time for money early. You never need to quit because your work energizes, not enslaves. This is how the rich retire at 35, not because they stopped working, but because they stopped being trapped by work. Why escape thinking keeps you poor? If your entire plan is to escape work, you'll never build anything that outlasts you, because building requires showing up, thinking long-term, creating structure, delaying gratification, and embracing purposeful discomfort. The mindset of endurance until escape is what keeps people stuck in jobs they hate, stuck in businesses they can't scale, stuck in lives they didn't choose. You were not born to grind just to quit. You were born to create something worth continuing. Choose ownership over retirement. Here's the final shift. Don't aim for retirement, aim for ownership. Ask, what can I build now that earns without me later? What can I systemize, digitize, automate, or delegate? What income streams can I own instead of just earn? How can I restructure my life so I never want to escape it? The goal is not to do nothing. The goal is to do what you want, when you want, without asking permission. And that starts not at 65, but at the moment you take control. The price of believing the lie. Every year you wait for retirement, you trade time you'll never get back, you put freedom on hold, and you lose the chance to design a life of purpose now. The longer you cling to the lie, the harder it becomes to break free. But if you start shifting today, you'll build a life you don't need to run from. What's next? Now that we've shattered the myth of retirement, it's time to go deeper into the source of true stability. Cash flow, not cash. Ownership, not savings. Design, not delay. Build once, earn forever. The compounding power of smart work. There's a quiet, powerful shift that happens the moment you stop asking, how much can I earn this month? And start asking, what can I build this month that keeps earning even when I stop? This is the essence of smart work. It's not about working harder. It's not about working longer. It's about working once and letting that work echo for years. This is how the rich separate from the pack. It's how they multiply time, income, and freedom. And it's how you can start building a life where money doesn't depend on your next hour of labor. The poor work for income.
The rich build for cash flow. Let's clarify the difference. Income is transactional. You do something, you get paid once, then you have to do it again. Cash flow, on the other hand, is residual. You build something once, and it keeps paying you, week after week, month after month, sometimes year after year. Here's the difference in mindset. Not, how can I make $10,000 this month? But how can I build an asset that pays me $1,000 a month for the next 10 years? It's the same total, but a radically different path. The first exhausts you. The second frees you. What smart work looks like. Smart work isn't about being lazy. It's about being intentional. Here's what it includes. Creating instead of consuming. Documenting instead of repeating. Automating instead of micromanaging. Licensing instead of selling once. And building systems instead of chasing tasks. Smart work turns effort into engines. And the most powerful thing about engines, they don't need you to push them every day. Examples of build once, earn forever. Let's make this real. Write a book, get paid every time it sells, years after you've written it. Create a YouTube video, earn ad revenue, leads, and traffic long after upload. Build a software tool, license it, or charge subscriptions monthly. Invest in dividend-paying stocks. Earn money just for holding them. Design a product, automate fulfillment, and earn while you sleep. Make an online course. People buy it repeatedly without your time. Buy a rental property. Get paid monthly from tenants indefinitely. Launch a podcast. Monetize via sponsors and ads, even on old episodes. Each of these is built once, then pays forever with maintenance, not labor. That's the wealth formula. The power of compounding work. Here's what most people miss. When you work smart, your effort compounds. Just like money compounds with interest, your actions compound with systems.
One email list becomes 10,000 leads. One video becomes 100,000 views. One product becomes 10,000 buyers. One article becomes 1,000 backlinks. One habit becomes a lifetime of discipline. The poor think work disappears. The rich design work to accumulate. It's not just work less. It's build in ways that last longer. Build slow to earn fast later. Most people want results now. They hate slow beginnings. They can't tolerate the silence of planting seeds. So they quit. They restart. They jump to the next thing. But here's the truth. Smart work is slow at first, then unstoppable. It's like pushing a flywheel. At first, it resists. It's heavy, it barely moves. But after consistent force, it spins faster and faster and faster until momentum takes over. And then, you don't have to push anymore. You just guide. That's what happens when you build assets that work without you. From sprints to structures. You've been trained to think in sprints, monthly targets, weekly quotas, hourly rates. But the rich think in structures. They ask, what business model keeps earning after launch? What product keeps growing after version 1? What channel keeps bringing attention after I stop posting daily? What partnerships keep paying long after the deal closes? They think in ecosystems, not to-do lists. They build platforms, not just projects. And that's what makes wealth inevitable. Action steps. How to start today. Here's how you shift into the build once, earn forever mindset. Pick one thing worth building. Course, book, video library, system, product. Design for repeatability. Ask, can this be used, sold, or shared more than once? Front load the pain. Accept that the start is hard. Commit anyway. Avoid shiny distractions. Don't jump. Compound. Track momentum, not just money. Are you building something bigger than today? And most importantly, ask yourself every week,
What did I build that will still earn even if I take next week off? That's how the rich think. That's how wealth grows. That's how freedom is built. Coming up next, you're now thinking like a builder, but what happens when life gets in the way? When fear creeps in? When you hesitate to start? Or worse, you stop halfway?
Move before you're ready. How the rich build first, adjust later. Most people are waiting for the right time, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting until they're confident, certain, qualified, and safe. But here's what wealthy people know that most never learn. By the time you feel ready, the opportunity is already gone. The rich don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait for proof. They don't wait for guarantees. They move, they build, they act before they're certain. And that's why they win. The curse of certainty. The average person is addicted to certainty. They want to know, will this work? Will I make my money back? Will people like it? What if I fail? But here's the truth. Certainty is the enemy of speed. Speed is the ally of wealth. The longer you wait for clarity, the more someone else seizes the opportunity. The rich don't ask, is this the perfect idea? They ask, is this worth testing now? They know that action brings answers. Waiting only brings doubt. The fast builder's mindset. Rich people operate with a different playbook. They believe speed beats perfection, iteration beats planning, execution beats hesitation, momentum beats credentials. They launch ugly, they learn fast, they adapt relentlessly. They're not afraid to fail because every failure is data, every misstep is information, every setback is refinement. That's the difference. Poor and middle-class mindsets avoid risk. The wealthy measure and manage it. Why waiting feels safe but is deadly. Waiting feels responsible. It feels like you're doing research. It feels like you're being strategic. It feels like you're protecting yourself. But what you're actually doing is delaying growth, avoiding discomfort, staying small, letting the market evolve without you. The price of waiting isn't just lost time, it's lost learning, lost leverage, lost momentum, lost opportunity. The longer you wait to move, the more expensive your dreams become. Real-world examples of move-first thinking. Facebook launched as a basic college directory. It was ugly, half broken. Now it owns the largest social media empire in the world. Amazon started as a niche online bookstore. No warehouses, no Prime. Now it runs global logistics and data infrastructure. YouTubers with massive audiences started on cheap phones, poor lighting, and zero editing skills. They learned by publishing, not by waiting. Real estate investors bought their first property with fear in their gut, but learned by owning, not spectating. None of them were ready. They just started. Action creates clarity. This is the paradox. You don't get clarity first, then act. You act first, and clarity comes after. The rich know this, so they stop trying to see the whole staircase. They take the first step, then the next, then the next. Because every action teaches more than a month of thinking. How to move before you're ready. You don't need full confidence. You need permission to act without it. Here's how to start. Launch imperfect. The first version is allowed to suck. It just can't stay that way. Build in public. Share progress. Test ideas. Learn with your audience. Use tight feedback loops. Don't wait 6 months for results. Build, launch, get data. Adjust. Make small bets fast. Don't risk it all, but risk something and learn quickly. Document everything. Your failures become frameworks.
Your process becomes product. And remember, good enough and shipped beats perfect and pending every time. You don't need to be first, you just need to move faster. It's not about being a pioneer, it's about being a starter. The rich get ahead not because they're the smartest, but because they're the first to act and the fastest to adapt. The world doesn't pay you for what you know, it pays you for what you do and build. The final shift. If you want to build wealth, stop waiting. Stop waiting to be qualified. Stop waiting for validation. Stop waiting for a better time. Stop waiting for someone to choose you. Choose yourself. Move before you're ready, and adjust on the way up. That's what builders do. That's what the rich do. That's what you must do. Up next. Now that you understand why action beats perfection, it's time to explore the next layer. How the rich invest in what compounds, not what distracts.
Invest in what compounds, the secret to exponential wealth. Here's something most people never realize. The rich don't get rich by doing more. They get rich by investing in what compounds. Compounding is quiet. It's invisible at first. It's slow. It's boring. It's unsexy. But then, one day, it's everything. What is compounding, really? You've probably heard the phrase, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world," by Albert Einstein. But compounding is not just about money. It's a principle of growth in every area of life. It means small actions done consistently, multiply over time, creating exponential returns with less and less effort required later on. Think of it like this. A drop of water isn't powerful, but over time it can carve through stone. Wealth works the same way. So do habits. So do skills. So does reputation. So does content. So does your network. The rich understand this. That's why they invest differently. The poor chase. The rich compound. Poor and middle-class mindsets chase quick rewards. What pays today? What's trending? What's hot right now? How fast can I see results? The rich, on the other hand, ask, what creates long-term momentum? What grows without my effort later? What gets better with time? Where can I plant now and harvest forever? This is the key shift. From dopamine to dividends, from impulse to patience, from reward now to reward forever. What actually compounds? Let's get practical. Here are assets and behaviors that compound over time if you invest in them early. Knowledge. Learning about money, psychology, systems, marketing, reading, taking notes, building mental frameworks. The more you know, the faster you think, the sharper you decide. Knowledge stacks and compounds forever. Skills. Writing, speaking, coding, selling, designing, leading. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Skills that once took 2 hours now take 20 minutes and yield 10x results. Your market value grows exponentially with rare, valuable, and leveraged skills. Content. One video can reach 100 people today, 1 million tomorrow. One article can drive traffic for years. One podcast can generate leads, sales, or authority forever. Content lives longer than effort. Relationships. The right person can change your career, your income, your life. Compound trust over time equals access, deals, support.
High-trust networks multiply every opportunity. Investments: dividend stocks, real estate, cash-flowing businesses. You put money in once, they keep growing without you. Patience turns 10K to 100K to 1 million if invested properly.
Habits. Discipline compounds into freedom. Health routines compound into energy. Productivity habits create time. Daily effort becomes effortless identity. Why most people avoid compounding? Because it's boring. It doesn't feel like progress at first. It's slow. It's invisible. It lacks dopamine. You go to the gym for 30 days, no six-pack. You invest $500, no retirement fund. You post 10 videos, no subscribers. You publish 5 blogs, no traffic. So most people quit. And they start something new. And they quit again and again until years go by and they've started everything but built nothing. Meanwhile, the wealthy kept compounding quietly, and now everything works for them. Exponential growth looks flat until it doesn't. Here's what exponential growth really looks like. Year 1, nothing. Year 2, still nothing. Year 3, slight results. Year 4, some momentum. Year 5, explosion. Year 6, you're lucky. People think success happens overnight, but compounding is always invisible until it becomes inevitable. The rich trust the curve. The poor abandon it too soon. What should you be investing in right now? If you want to build real wealth, ask, what will this look like in 5 years? Will this free me or trap me long term? Is this building a machine or just an event? Am I feeding a feedback loop or burning out for a one-time win? Start putting time, money, and energy into assets, systems, brands, relationships, skills, reputation, distribution channels, and ownership. Not quick wins, not gimmicks, not trends. One decision can change your future slowly. It's tempting to think you need 1,000 big moves to get rich. You don't. You need one smart decision done consistently for years. That's what compounding is. A force that rewards patience, discipline, vision, and repetition. The people who looked like they did it all at once were often just quietly compounding while no one was watching. Be one of those people. Up next, now that you understand what to invest in and why compounding is the secret weapon of the wealthy, it's time to expose the modern illusion that keeps most people stuck. Constant productivity, hustle culture, busy equals important.
Why the rich guard their time like gold, and the poor waste it on approval. There's one resource more valuable than money, more irreplaceable than connections, more powerful than information: time. And not just clock time. We're talking about mental bandwidth, creative focus, decision-making energy, the unrecoverable currency of your life. The rich protect it like gold. The poor? They often trade it away for attention, validation, and approval. The most precious currency you own. Money lost can be earned again. Opportunities missed can be recreated. But time? Every minute you give away is gone forever. The wealthy understand this at a cellular level. That's why they say no more than yes. Build teams to protect their calendar. Use assistants to filter noise. automate anything repeatable. Block time for deep thinking. Schedule their lives around creation, not reaction. They don't just manage time, they defend it. Because they know if someone else controls your calendar, they control your future. How the poor and middle class waste time. Not because they're lazy, but because they don't value their time like the rich do. Here's what that looks like. Scrolling endlessly to stay in the loop. Saying yes to every social event out of guilt. Chasing likes, comments, and external approval. Answering every message the second it arrives. Watching every trending drama or controversy. Doing low-leverage tasks to feel busy. And the most dangerous time trap? Trying to prove something to people who don't matter. Approval is a silent thief. Let's be brutally honest. So much of what people do isn't for results, it's for recognition. The job you hate, but your parents approve of. The business you don't enjoy but looks good on Instagram. The schedule that's killing you but earns claps from strangers. But here's the hard truth. Every hour you spend seeking approval is an hour you don't spend building freedom. The wealthy don't need applause, they need space. They don't seek validation, they seek leverage. They don't care if it's visible, they care if it's valuable. Time versus attention, the real game. You might think you're in control of your time, but in today's world, the real war is for your attention. Companies spend billions to steal it. Apps are engineered to hijack it. Algorithms are designed to addict it. Because your focus equals their profit. But your focus equals your future.
The rich understand this, so they limit exposure to noise, don't argue with strangers online, don't consume more than they create, don't fill time, they protect direction. They treat their attention like a billionaire treats investment capital. Only put it where there's potential return. The myth of hustle all day. Let's kill another illusion. Being busy is not the same as being effective. You can grind for 14 hours a day and still be broke, tired, distracted, and invisible. Because hustle without clarity equals wasted life. The rich don't hustle blindly. They zoom out. They prioritize. They simplify. They don't ask, what else can I do? They ask, what matters most and what can I ignore completely? That's not laziness. That's strategic dominance. Ask yourself, here are 5 questions to audit your time starting today. Would I still do this if no one knew I was doing it? Is this building my wealth or just stroking my ego? If I say yes to this, what am I saying no to without realizing? Is this urgent or just loud? Am I running toward impact or running from judgment? Be honest, because the cost of pretending is time you'll never get back. What time looks like to the wealthy? A 30-minute call equals $100,000 decision. A quiet morning, birth of a new brand. An ignored email, 3 hours saved. A single boundary, complete mental freedom. One calendar block, compounding cash flow system. Every hour is measured by leverage, not by obligation. They don't just protect their time from others, they protect it from themselves, their impulses, their people-pleasing, their fear of missing out. You don't have a time management problem. You have a priority management problem. You have a permission problem. You haven't given yourself the right to say no without guilt, cancel low-value tasks, unplug without explaining, create without broadcasting, ignore what doesn't build your future. But now, you can. The final shift. If you want to build wealth, stop measuring your day by how busy you are. Start measuring it by how much clarity you protected, how much focus you bought back, how much mental bandwidth you saved, how many distractions you eliminated, and how many decisions you made with purpose. Because in the end, the rich don't spend time, they invest it. And if you start treating your time like money, you'll soon have more of both. Up next, you're now thinking differently about time and approval. But there's one last trap that silently destroys momentum. The people around you, your environment, your tribe.
Choose your circle, choose your future. Why wealth is a proximity game. Here's a brutal truth. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. You can have the best intentions, the clearest goals, the smartest strategies. But if you're surrounded by people who play small, fear risk, mock ambition, settle for less, avoid growth, then sooner or later, you will shrink. Not because you're weak, but because proximity is power, and power works both ways. You are the average of your inputs. We've all heard this. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Jim Rohn. But it goes deeper. It's not just your friends. It's your conversations, group chats, YouTube feed, Instagram timeline, podcasts you consume, people you text, mentors you watch. Everything you allow into your mind shapes your identity. And identity is the foundation of every decision you make. The rich curate their circle relentlessly. Wealthy people know environment isn't neutral. Proximity influences standards. Who you allow near you determines what you tolerate in yourself. That's why they limit access to their time, hire mentors, not critics, choose partners based on alignment, not comfort, pay to be in rooms that challenge them, leave conversations that drain them, build ecosystems of accountability. They don't leave their future up to random influence. They design it by designing who's allowed in. How the wrong people keep you broke. Not because they're evil, not because they wish you harm, but because they normalize smallness. You work too hard. You've changed. That'll never work. Don't get your hopes up. You're always chasing something. Sound familiar? These aren't comments. They're anchors. Each one tethers you to the past you're trying to outgrow. The subtle sabotage of familiarity. Here's the paradox. The people closest to you emotionally are often the ones least equipped to support your evolution. Why? Because your growth threatens their comfort. When you rise, you become a mirror. You reflect what they're not doing, what they gave up on, what they fear they'll never become. So instead of cheering, they pull, gently, subtly, sometimes with love, but always with limitation. Proximity equals permission. When you're surrounded by people who invest, build, scale, risk, design, lead, something shifts inside you. You stop saying, "I can't," and you start asking, "How can I?" That single shift from defensive doubt to proactive pursuit changes everything. Not because someone gave you a secret, but because someone made success your new normal. That's what proximity does. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to be intentional. You don't have to disown your friends. You don't have to ghost your family. You don't have to burn bridges. But you do need boundaries. You can love people without letting them limit you. You can stay kind without staying small. Here's how. Spend more time with people who stretch you. Find digital mentors through books, podcasts, and videos. Pay to enter high-quality rooms. Create new tribes based on who you're becoming. Filter advice through, have they built what I want to build? Energy is contagious. Choose your infection wisely. The cost of stagnant circles. Stay too long in a low-standard circle, and you'll find
Big goals start to feel unrealistic. Small wins start to feel like finish lines. Criticism feels louder than possibility. Progress slows because comfort becomes identity. You don't notice it overnight. It's like carbon monoxide, odorless, colorless, deadly. But make no mistake, the wrong room can kill your future. How to build a wealth-creating circle. Start small. Audit your current circle. Who builds you? Who breaks you? Join online communities aligned with your goals. They don't have to know you yet. Be a student first. Follow creators who teach, not just flaunt. Reach out to one person ahead of you. Ask to learn, not to leech. Give value first. Create space for new energy. Sometimes growth requires quiet. Remember, you don't need a crowd. You just need a crow, a few people who refuse to let you settle. The final shift. If you want to be wealthy, surround yourself with people who think in decades, people who speak in systems, people who choose discipline over dopamine, people who value vision over validation. Because if you want to build something rare, you can't spend your life surrounded by the average. Choose your circle, and you've already chosen your future. Up next. Now that you understand why proximity shapes prosperity, we'll explore how to transform yourself into the kind of person wealth is drawn to.
Become the asset. Why you are the greatest investment you'll ever make. Poor people look for assets outside themselves. The rich become the asset. Not real estate, not stocks, not crypto, you. Your mindset, your skills, your energy, your credibility, your discipline, your thinking, your presence. That is the ultimate wealth engine. Because if you disappear today, what's left? What can continue to generate value with or without a platform, a boss, or a business? The answer is you. The poor seek tools, the rich upgrade the operator. The poor ask, what's the best thing to invest in right now? What side hustle is working this year? What coin will make me rich? The rich ask, what skill will increase my earning potential permanently? What do I need to understand better to create leverage? What mental frameworks will help me lead better decisions? Poor people chase strategies. The wealthy upgrade their strategic thinking. They don't just ask, what can I get? They ask, who must I become to attract, hold, and multiply what I want? That is where wealth begins. You are always being valued, whether you know it or not. You are already being priced in the marketplace. Some are worth $10 an hour, some are worth $1,000 an hour, some don't trade time at all, their assets do the work, and some get paid 6 figures just to think in a room. This is not about fairness, it's about value perception. You don't get paid for effort, you get paid for the difficulty of problems you solve, the trust others place in you, the impact your decisions make, and your ability to produce results under pressure. You are either a replaceable pair of hands or an irreplaceable asset that shapes outcomes. Mindset is the first asset you must build. Everything begins in the mind. Your belief systems, your ability to reframe obstacles, your relationship with risk, your tolerance for discomfort, your ability to make decisions without emotion. You can lose money, you can lose followers, you can lose platforms. But if you've built a powerful mindset, you'll rebuild faster, better, smarter. Wealthy people don't fear failure. They know they own the code and they can write a better version anytime. Skills create asymmetry. One skill can shift your entire financial future. Learn to sell, never be broke again. Learn to write, build trust at scale. Learn to lead, Multiply your time through people. Learn to negotiate, save or earn 6 figures without new products. Learn to invest, make money without effort. Poor people complain that they're underpaid. The wealthy learn to become too valuable to ignore. Your income is not tied to your job, it's tied to your problem-solving capacity. IV. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Everyone wants freedom.
But few realize. Discipline is freedom. Freedom to walk away from noise. Freedom to say no without guilt. Freedom to follow through even when emotions shift. Freedom to stick with boring routines that create extraordinary results. Without discipline, you're a slave to your moods, to your cravings, to distractions, to other people's agendas. Discipline is what lets the wealthy build a life of intention, not reaction. VI. Your reputation is a silent asset. Your name is either opening doors or closing them. People talk about you when you're not in the room. What do they say? Are you dependable, resourceful, respected, trusted with opportunity, known for delivering results? The rich know that trust is currency. It earns them faster deals, better terms, invitations others never hear about, the benefit of the doubt when others are questioned. Reputation compounds or decays with every interaction. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. 7. Your health is your real net worth. You can't build wealth from a hospital bed. You can't think sharply with foggy energy. You can't lead others when your body is breaking down. That's why the rich invest in trainers, nutrition, sleep optimization, stress reduction, movement, and recovery. Poor people treat health reactively. The wealthy treat health as infrastructure. Because your energy is your productivity. Your clarity is your decision-making. Your body is your vehicle for execution. Protect it or pay the price. 8. Self-learning is the infinite skill. In a world that changes every year, the ability to teach yourself anything is your superpower. Don't wait to be taught. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait to feel ready. Learn fast. Fail forward. Outgrow your past self like it's your full-time job. The wealthy are not know-it-alls. They are learn-it-alls, and they're obsessed with reinvention. 9. Why investing in yourself is the only risk-free investment. You can lose money in real estate. You can lose value in stocks. You can make the wrong business bet. But you can never lose when you build new skills, sharpen your mind, expand your network, improve your health, strengthen your habits, clarify your thinking. Because you carry it all forward into every job, every deal, every decision. Even if you lost it all tomorrow, the person you've become would rebuild it faster. That's true leverage. 10. Final shift. Stop asking what you can buy and start asking who you can become. Every time you say, "I want to be rich," ask yourself, am I becoming the kind of person wealth is drawn to? Because money doesn't just flow to need. It flows to competence, confidence, consistency, control. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not underqualified. You are in development. Start building the only asset that appreciates forever. You. Up next, you've just unlocked the truth. You are the most valuable investment of your life. Now it's time to expose one of the final enemies of action. Seeking permission, waiting for validation, playing small until someone says, go. Stop seeking permission. Why wealth starts the moment you choose yourself. Here's a truth most people never admit, but live by every day. They're waiting for approval, for validation, for a signal, for someone to say, "It's okay, you can start now." And while they wait, time moves, opportunities pass, confidence erodes, momentum dies. But the wealthy, they don't wait for permission. They give it to themselves, and that's when everything changes. 1. The silent addiction to permission. Most people were raised to be obedient, not powerful. You were taught to raise your hand before speaking, wait for instructions before acting, ask before trying, seek validation before standing out. So now, even as an adult, you feel the need to ask, is this good enough? Do you think I should try? Am I allowed to do this? What if people judge me? This invisible conditioning creates invisible cages. Cages that don't exist physically, but feel just as real. And here's the worst part. No one is coming to unlock the door. You have to walk through it yourself. 2. Wealthy people don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. The wealthy don't sit around hoping someone sees their potential. They act like the opportunity already belongs to them. They publish before they're ready. They speak before they're fully confident. They invest before they have every answer. They move and let the world catch up. Why? Because they understand this. Waiting for permission is just a socially acceptable form of procrastination. It feels responsible. It feels polite. It feels humble. But really, it's fear wearing a mask. The cost of waiting. Every time you delay action to get one more opinion, every time you look around to see what others are doing first, every time you downplay your ideas to make others comfortable, you pay a price. Lost time, lost confidence, lost positioning, lost internal momentum, lost respect from others and from yourself. You may not feel it in the moment, but one day you look back and realize, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I talked myself out of it. That's not humility, that's self-betrayal. You are already qualified to begin. You don't need a degree to share your ideas, a following to post your message, experience to start building, perfection to make progress. Most people think they need permission because they haven't earned credibility yet. But here's the truth. Credibility is not given to you. It's built through action, one brick at a time. You don't wait for status to start. You start to earn status. Every expert was once unknown. Every leader was once unsure. Every master was once a beginner who refused to ask for permission. You're afraid of judgment, but judgment fades, regret sticks. Let's be honest. The real reason you seek permission? You're afraid of being seen, of being judged, of being wrong, of being laughed at. But here's the paradox. The people whose opinions you fear will forget you tomorrow, but you will remember the times you stayed silent, the times you backed down, the times you dimmed your light. Judgment passes. Regret lingers. Action builds authority, not the other way around. You don't need a fancy title. You need the courage to move before you feel worthy. The world gives authority to people who act with clarity, solve real problems, and show up consistently. You don't wait for someone to say, "You're an expert." You become one through proof of work. No permission required. Stop asking for a map. Start building the path. Poor mindsets ask, can someone show me the exact steps? Can I copy what they did? What's the safe way forward? Wealthy ask, what's the next decision I can own? What can I try, test, or prototype? What's one step that builds momentum? They don't need guarantees, they need initiative. Permission-based people wait for clarity. Builders create clarity through motion. IX. No one is coming. Here's the truth most people don't want to accept. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to grant you access. No one is coming to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Now's your time." Your time is when you say it is. Success is reserved for those who are tired of waiting, tired of seeking validation, tired of shrinking to fit a system that was never built for them. The wealthy didn't wait for doors to open. They built new doors, then walked through them. X. Final shift. Give yourself the permission you've been waiting for. You don't need another course. You don't need more likes. You don't need a green light. You need a decision, a commitment, a willingness to be seen in your becoming. Because once you choose yourself, you stop chasing approval. You stop apologizing for ambition. You stop shrinking to make others feel comfortable. And you start building the only life that matters, the one you actually want. Up next, now that you've claimed your right to act, you're ready to learn the final piece of the inner game. How to think like the rich, especially when times get hard, slow, or uncertain.
Think long, act decisively. The wealthy play for decades, not days. The average person thinks in hours. The poor think in paychecks. The middle class thinks in weekends. Even most entrepreneurs think in months. But the wealthy? They think in decades. They zoom out. They slow down to scale up. They don't chase the dopamine of fast. They chase the certainty of direction. And while everyone else is measuring today's noise, they're planting for a 10-year harvest. Long-term thinking is the richest mindset on earth. Short-term thinking says, what's the fastest way to get rich? How do I go viral? How can I make 10K this month? Long-term thinking asks, what am I building that will still matter in 10 years? What system can I refine to work without me? What reputation do I want to compound? Short-term thinking burns energy. Long-term thinking builds empires. It's not about how fast you grow, it's about how long you last. The myth of immediate results. The culture wants you to think you're behind, you need to go faster, success is supposed to happen now. If it's not instant, it's not working. But here's the truth. If you're building something that lasts, it won't be visible right away. Because true growth is underground, invisible, uncomfortable, quiet. Until one day, it looks like overnight success. But it wasn't overnight. It was just long-term thinking with daily execution. Long-term builders don't chase trends. They build foundations. Short-term thinkers ask, what's working this week? What's hot on TikTok? What's everyone else doing? Long-term thinkers ask, what timeless problems can I solve? What positioning will still be strong 5 years from now? What brand or business will earn trust across generations? They don't pivot every time the algorithm changes. They don't start over every 90 days. They commit. Trends give you noise. Foundations give you leverage. Decisive action creates long-term momentum. Thinking long-term doesn't mean you move slow. Wealthy people think in decades, but they act with urgency. They understand, the longer the vision, the stronger the filter. The faster the decision, the faster the feedback. The sooner you start, the sooner you learn. The bolder you act, the faster you break through noise. It's not think slow, move slow. It's think big, move now. Every day matters, but not for dopamine. It matters because each action compounds toward the bigger play. Why most people quit before the wealth kicks in? Short-term thinkers give up because the results are slow, the validation is missing, the comparison is loud, and the progress feels invisible.
So they burn out, switch lanes, try something else, lose credibility, stay broke. But the long-term thinker, they expect it to feel hard. They expect the dip. They expect the silence. And they keep building anyway. Because they trust the process more than their emotions. VI, how the wealthy use time as a weapon. To poor and middle-class mindsets, time is a pressure. To the rich, time is a weapon. Because most people waste it, most people rush it, most people fear it, most people can't see past it. Wealthy people use time to test, refine, and scale. Let brand and trust compound. Let reputation spread. Let systems stabilize. Let cash flow multiply. They don't get rich by timing the market. They get rich by outlasting everyone else. VII. Ask these questions to shift your timeline. Start shifting your lens from 30-day goals to 30-year vision. Ask, what do I want my name to stand for in 10 years? What am I willing to suck at now to be great at later? What do I need to build today so I don't have to chase tomorrow? What would be irresponsible for me not to start now? What will I wish I started 5 years from now? These questions pull you out of urgency and plant you in purpose. VIII. Playing the long game isn't sexy, but it works. No one claps when you say, I'm going to focus deeply for the next 5 years. I'm going to post every day for the next 1,000 days. I'm going to build a product that compounds for a decade. But that's exactly what creates freedom. Because while everyone else is jumping, starting over, trying to stay relevant, you're building roots so deep that storms don't shake you. IX. What you build in years pays you in decades. The wealthy build brands that outlive them, assets that compound while they rest, teams that execute without their presence, ecosystems that generate momentum forever. They don't think, what do I need right now? They think, what can I create now that future me will thank me forever? That's the move. X. Final shift. Be patient with results, ruthless with action. Long-term thinking isn't soft. It's not passive. It's not naive. It's the most aggressive, intentional, and leverage-driven mindset in the game. Because it says, I'm willing to look invisible until I'm undeniable. I'm willing to do the boring stuff until it becomes the brilliant stuff. I'm willing to think like an empire, while others think like a lottery ticket. You don't have to move faster. You have to aim further and move with more purpose. Think long, act fast. Repeat until it looks like magic. Up next, now that you've shifted your lens into the long game, it's time to tackle a powerful hidden enemy of wealth. Emotions, impulses, the mental traps that sabotage your momentum.
Master your emotional wallet. How to think clearly when money gets messy. Money is logical, but people are not. And that's the problem. Because no matter how smart your strategy is, if your emotions are in control, your money never will be. Fear, greed, shame, guilt, envy, impatience. These emotions, more than any market condition, boss or recession, are what keep people broke. The wealthy don't just master money, they master the emotions around money. Emotions are the invisible wallet you carry.
You don't spend dollars, you spend emotion. That's why you buy things you don't need to feel significant. You undercharge because you're afraid of rejection. You avoid investments out of fear of loss. You hold on to bad decisions because you're ashamed of changing course. You delay action because you're afraid of looking stupid. None of these are financial problems. They're emotional habits with financial consequences. The poor are controlled by emotion. The rich use emotion strategically. Poor and middle-class mindsets. Buy when they're excited. Sell when they're scared. Save when it's trendy. Spend when they're lonely. Work more when they feel guilty. Quit when they feel overwhelmed. Wealthy people train themselves to buy when it makes sense, not when it feels good. To sit still when others panic. To invest based on principles, not pressure. To price their value based on market impact, not imposter syndrome. To make decisions based on data, not dopamine. They don't ignore emotion. They notice it and refuse to be ruled by it. How fear destroys financial potential. Fear says, what if it doesn't work? What if I lose everything? What if they laugh? What if I'm not good enough? So you don't invest, don't raise your prices, don't leave the toxic job, don't launch the product, don't ask for the opportunity. But what fear doesn't tell you is this: by avoiding risk, you're still taking one. You're just choosing the risk of never becoming who you could be. Wealthy people feel fear too. They just don't make it the CEO of their life. Shame, the hidden enemy of earning. So many people stay broke because they're ashamed of how little they know, how many times they've failed, how messy their past is, how far behind they feel, how not ready they still are. Shame tells you, who are you to talk about money? You should be further ahead by now. You're not smart enough for this. Shame makes you hide, but money only flows toward confidence and visibility. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep moving while forgiving yourself. Shame is heavy. The rich drop it faster. Envy and comparison are wealth killers. You see someone online, flashing cash, showing off wins, celebrating milestones, and suddenly you feel behind, worthless, inadequate, small. So what do? Chase faster wins, buy to keep up, rush the process, quit your own lane to jump into theirs. The result? You lose time, clarity, and alignment. The rich don't compare, they filter. Is this aligned with what I'm building? Do I even want their lifestyle? Is this the full story or a highlight reel? They know. Jealousy is wasted energy. Execution is wealth energy. Impatience destroys compounding. Impatience says, why is it taking so long? This should be working by now. Maybe I should try something else. So you quit too soon, abandon the system, burn down the strategy, and start something new again. But wealth doesn't come to those who start a lot. It comes to those who stay long enough to let compounding do its work. The most expensive decision is always, I gave up too early. The wealthy expect slow. They're emotionally prepared for it. Emotional awareness equals financial clarity. Wealthy people practice emotional self-awareness, like athletes train their bodies. When fear shows up, pause and gather data. When envy flares up, shift focus to building. When shame whispers, replace it with action. When doubt lingers, move with small steps anyway. When impatience screams, zoom out on the timeline. They don't suppress their emotions. They translate them into strategy. VIII, the emotional money loop. Let's simplify. Emotion triggers reaction. Reaction becomes behavior. Behavior creates pattern. Pattern determines financial outcomes. Break the emotional loop, and you break the limits on your wealth. Start asking, what emotion is driving this decision? Would I still choose this if I felt calm? Is this urgency or ego? You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be emotionally intelligent. That's how you build wealth with clarity. XI. Train emotional discipline like a muscle. You wouldn't expect to lift 200 pounds your first day in the gym, so don't expect emotional mastery overnight. Start with small reps. Pause before reacting. Journal decisions before making them. Track your financial choices and the feeling behind them. Sit with discomfort instead of numbing it. Delay the impulse and observe the truth behind it. Every time you override a reactive emotion, you build the inner CEO who leads your wealth journey. XI. Final shift. Let your vision lead, not your feelings. You will feel fear. You will feel doubt. You will feel not enough. You will feel lost. But none of those feelings are final. They are data points, not destiny. Let your vision, not your emotions, make the call. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not your triggers. You are the one who chooses what happens next. And that's where wealth begins. Up next, now that you've taken back control of your emotional wallet, you're ready for the final elevation. How to sustain momentum even when motivation fades, even when it's boring, even when no one's clapping.
Discipline over dopamine, the final scale that separates the wealthy from the rest. In a world addicted to instant gratification, discipline is the ultimate competitive advantage. Not talent, not timing, not luck, but the boring, invisible, repetitive act of showing up, even when it's not exciting. That's what separates those who talk about wealth from those who build it. The rich don't wait to feel motivated. Poor and middle-class mindsets say, I'll work when I feel inspired. I'll invest when I feel ready. I'll finish when I feel like it. The wealthy, they know feelings are not a reliable system. They don't ask, do I feel like doing this today? They ask, is this the next step toward my vision? Success doesn't come to those who feel good. It comes to those who keep going even when it doesn't feel good at all. Dopamine is the new poverty trap. In the past, poverty was about lack of food. Today, it's about overconsumption of stimulation, scrolling, swiping, chasing trends, switching goals every month, jumping ship when it gets hard. Dopamine keeps you busy, not productive. It keeps you entertained, not wealthy. The rich aren't more focused by default. They've just trained themselves to delay gratification, to trade short-term pleasure for long-term power. Discipline is the muscle of wealth. Discipline is boring, repetitive, unsexy, but it's the one thing the rich do better than everyone else. They wake up and follow their routine, even when it's hard. Stick to their investment strategy, even when the market dips. Keep building content, offers, value, even when views are low. Keep reading, learning, testing, even when no one claps. Show up again and again and again. The rich aren't chasing motivation. They're building momentum by mastering discipline. Why the poor crave variety but starve consistency. Poor and middle-class mindsets often say, I got bored. It wasn't working fast enough. I wanted something new. It didn't feel exciting anymore. So they jump from one business to another, try 100 habits, finish none, abandon working systems for shiny objects, confuse motion with progress. But wealth doesn't come from excitement. It comes from consistency that compounds. The rich, They're okay with boredom because they understand what it's buying them. V. The wealthy build systems that outlive emotion. Discipline isn't just willpower, it's structure. The wealthy use calendars instead of mood, automation instead of remembering, rituals instead of motivation, boundaries instead of burnout, KPIs instead of guesswork. They build systems that run even when they feel tired, sad, uninspired, because they know if your success depends on how you feel, then your future is always at risk. 5. Discipline isn't restriction, it's freedom. Most people fear discipline because they think it means no fun, no flexibility, no flow, no joy. But the truth? Discipline is the trade you make for freedom. Freedom from paycheck dependency, freedom from reacting to emergencies, freedom from chasing dopamine highs, freedom from regret, from starting over, from feeling behind. When you're disciplined with money, health, time, and purpose, life opens wider. 7. Why motivation culture is keeping you poor. Social media sells you this lie. You just need the right morning routine. Follow your passion and the money will come. If it feels hard, it's not aligned. Hustle is toxic. Rest is wealth. And while rest matters, while burnout is real, that doesn't replace the truth. You will never build true wealth without doing hard things consistently, without applause. The rich don't romanticize the grind, but they respect it and they return to it every single day. 8. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your discipline. Goals are dreams. Discipline is the floor you stand on. If your life is chaotic, if your income is unstable, if your energy is always drained, it's not that you're broken. You just don't have strong foundations. Discipline is saying no when it's easier to say yes. Following through when no one's watching, protecting your calendar like it's sacred, executing your strategy like it already worked, trusting the process, not the feelings. You don't need to dream bigger, you need to commit deeper. 9. Becoming dangerous, the power of doing what others won't. Most people quit at 80%, ghost their own goals, wait until it's urgent, fold when it's not exciting, get motivated, then disappear. Discipline is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. So when you become the one who shows up when others disappear, posts when others quit, finishes what others abandon, moves even when afraid, builds even when unseen, you become dangerous. And dangerous people build generational wealth. 10. Final shift. Make discipline your identity. You don't try to be disciplined, you become it. You say, I'm the kind of person who does what I say. I keep promises to myself. I finish things. I value long-term wins more than short-term hits. I outlast trends. Because at the end of the day, wealth is not about what you start, it's about what you stay for. Discipline keeps you in the room long enough for the magic to happen. Up next, you've come this far. You've rebuilt your mindset, rewritten your relationship to work, redefined freedom. Now it's time for one last truth. The freedom you crave isn't in retirement, it's in ownership. You've been told a lie. That freedom comes from stopping work, from saving up just enough, from waiting until you're 60 to finally start living. But freedom was never about quitting. Freedom is about owning. Owning your income, owning your schedule, owning your value, owning your life. Retirement is a 20th century illusion. Retirement was invented during industrialization, not as a reward, but as a system to phase out aging labor. It worked when
People died at 65. One income supported a household. Pensions existed. Healthcare was affordable. But today, people live to 85 plus. Inflation kills savings. Jobs don't guarantee stability. Healthcare bankrupts families. The model is broken, and betting your freedom on it is financial suicide. I. Rich people don't retire, they reinvent. Ask a rich person about retirement and they'll say, I don't plan to retire, I plan to evolve. I love what I do. I just want more control, not less responsibility. That's because the wealthy don't view work as punishment, they've built systems that energize them. They're not escaping work, they're choosing how to direct it. They're not chasing nothing to do. They're chasing total say in what they do. That's real freedom. I. Ownership is the opposite of employment. Here's the core truth. Employees rent their time. Owners multiply it. Employees trade hours for fixed pay. Owners create offers, products, systems. Employees live in someone else's vision. Owners architect their own. If you can be fired, capped, or replaced, you're not free. The rich, they play a different game. They own their equity. They own their platforms. They own their audience, brand, assets. That's why they can walk away. Not because they stopped working, but because they own what keeps working. IV. You can't save your way to freedom. Poor people try to save their way out. They think, if I budget hard enough, if I cut lattes and vacations, if I live small, maybe I'll make it. But shrinking your life isn't freedom. It's survival. The rich don't play defense. They play offense. They own income streams. They own leverage. They own the ability to print value on demand. They don't fear inflation. They build assets that beat it. Saving makes you stable. Ownership makes you free. V. Ownership is a mindset before it's a status. You don't need to own a company to think like an owner. You just need to ask, what am I building that lasts beyond this week? What systems work for me while I sleep? What skills compound over time? Am I creating something I control? Employees wait for permission. Owners take responsibility. It's not about title, it's about taking the wheel. Ownership isn't a promotion, it's a posture.
6. Every wealthy person you admire owns something. Think about it. Warren Buffett owns companies. Elon Musk owns technology and equity. Rihanna owns her brand. Mr. Beast owns his audience. Real estate investors own doors. Entrepreneurs own distribution. Even freelancers, the smart ones, own systems and client pipelines. You don't have to be famous, but you must own something that produces money when you're not working. That's the only freedom that scales. 7. You've been trained to be replaceable. The system didn't prepare you to own, it prepared you to obey. You were taught, memorize, take test, get job, follow rules. Trade time, climb the ladder, retire tired. But you were never taught to question the ladder, build your own rungs, print your own value, own the outcomes. You were programmed to be productive, not powerful. The rich, they rewrote the rules. So must you. 8. Owning your life means owning the results. It's easier to blame.
The economy, the boss, the market, the algorithm, the government. But the wealthy play a different game. They take radical ownership. They say, if I don't like the income, I'll fix the system. If I'm being underpaid, I'll build something better. If the game is unfair, I'll learn the rules and bend them. Ownership starts when excuses end. 9. What you build will set you free. Here's the final truth. You don't need to quit your job today, but you must begin to build something that is yours. A skill, a service, a product, an audience, a brand, a system, a vision. Something you own, something that works when you don't, something no one can fire you from. The moment you start building, you stop begging. 10. This is where the shift ends and begins. You thought freedom meant no more work, but now you see work isn't the enemy. Working for nothing is. The rich don't escape work. They use it to build ownership. Ownership gives them leverage. Leverage buys them freedom. And that freedom? It isn't someday. It's a daily decision to build, to own, to stop renting your life and start reclaiming it. So the question is, what are you going to build that belongs to you? The journey doesn't end here. It starts here with ownership.